We're talking about making friends as somebody who is a seven-figure plus business owner. How do you branch out? How do you get maybe a circle that influences you in a really positive way? There is a very famous quote by Jim Rohn. I'm sure we've all heard it before. You are the average of the five people you hang around. So how do we start hanging around people we want to be like, right? That's what we're going to be talking about today. I think it can be really lonely as a business owner. And speaking from experience, I've been a business owner now for over 23 years. And it can be very lonely when you don't have somebody to talk to about what is going on in the business, right? Maybe your friends, right, that you have are in a 9 to 5 type job. They are an employee, not an employer. So when you say things about, how do you say to somebody about how your employees aren't doing this or that, and you're frustrated with them? They don't want to hear that, right? Like maybe that's who they specifically are. Or you don't want to say something like, I don't know how I'm going to make payroll next week, Friday, to one of your team members. Like you necessarily can't talk to somebody that's on your team. You don't want to scare them. Okay. The business owner has such a unique position, and even your spouse, right? There are so many spouses that are not in the business and they don't get the business. They have a very different personality. Opposites attract, right? So maybe the spouse isn't a typical 9 to 5 and they're not playing the business game, but when you talk, it scares them. It terrifies them. So there are a lot of times when I specifically make sure, like, my husband's not going to want to hear that, or that's going to stress him out and he doesn't need to be stressed out. I've got that under control, right? So my point is we need to make sure that we have a community of people we can talk to, not be afraid to say what we're struggling with, not afraid to say our big goals, right? So that's what we're going to talk about today. So welcome. If you are new here, my name is Stacy Tuschl. I am a business owner. My businesses generate over $10 million in annual revenue. And I love to grow. I love to get better and better and better, stronger and stronger and stronger. And the way I do it is truly surround myself with people that are doing those big things. Okay. So how do you start to up level? And we'll talk today too about how do I start to say goodbye to certain people, right? Some people in your life do not serve you where you are today or where you're going. And it is okay to start to back away from some of those relationships. Now, because we're live, if you have any questions that you want me to specifically answer, definitely post them in the chat and we'll go from there. So the first thing I'm going to give you is a few tips of how do we start getting new people. Well, number one, you want to figure out who do I want to be, right? Who do I want to be? What do I aspire to be? Okay. And then you've got to figure out, well, where are those people? Where are they hanging out? So you want to make sure you start to get in those rooms, get in those places. Now, the good news is if you're like, great, I live in a small town in the middle of nowhere. So do I. So I'm in Milwaukee, but I am in more of the country. I can see like 3 farms from my front door. And the beauty of, the world we live in today is you don't need to live in a certain area that is loaded with business owners. Okay. So to be really, really real, I do not have many business friends in my local community. Okay. Most of my business friends are all over the world and I meet them in other states at events that we go to. Okay. So basically for me here, I have a tight group of friends that are neighbors that I hang out with that I love. And that's who I usually am with when I'm here. When I go to get inspired and fueled as a business owner and I share my biggest, darkest business secrets that nobody can probably handle except for a business owner, because if I told my friends something, right, they might be like, oh my goodness, the world is ending for you. How do I help you fix this? When it's maybe not as big of a deal to another business owner. Okay. So anyway, I just wanted you to hear that because in case you're thinking, shoot, I live here, that's going to be really hard. You can live wherever. It doesn't matter. Okay. One of my really close business friends lives in Australia. Like it really, truly does not matter where you are. Okay. So I think that's the first thing is who do I want to be? Right? What types of people inspire me? What am I trying to achieve? And then where are those people? Where are those circles? Okay. A lot of times people will say, well, how do you find those circles? Okay, if you're watching me right now on YouTube, you're online, right? You're on Instagram, you're on YouTube, you're seeing people like me, right, who host events. So I think it should be very, very easy for you to figure out where I want to go, what I want to do specifically. Okay. So, first, obviously, anytime I see somebody online, I usually first fall in love with their content, right? I'm like, this is resonating, this is working for me, right? I'm in alignment with their values, etc. And then if I go, okay, I want to go deeper in that relationship, I'm usually in one of their programs or going to one of their events. And now I'm meeting people. Think about it. If I'm in alignment with the speaker, now I'm meeting people that are usually in alignment as well, right? So it's a really, really easy way to kind of get in those rooms. Okay. Now, getting in the room is the easy part. However, actually making real friendships and walking away from those events is a little bit trickier. And a lot of people don't do this well, right? It's just a little awkward trying to make friends with new people as you're older. Okay. So I would say this, be willing to go first. I think a lot of people, and I used to do this, I would see people online hanging out and I would think like, why wasn't I invited? Or why am I not included? Like, why was nobody thinking about me? And what I had to start to do is take more ownership and and start to build my own room, right? Start to build my own room where I'm inviting people, right? And I don't have to be going, why am I not invited? It's like, listen, why can't I do what they just did and build it myself? So my point here is be willing to go first. Don't wait for somebody to invite you, invite them. Okay. So just put it out there. We went to last week, I was in Florida. We were at the pool, and my daughter's 9, and probably this girl was maybe like 6. And she just walked right up to my daughter in the pool. We just got there, and she's like, hey, do you want to be my best friend? I just loved it so much. I actually, my daughter's a little shy and she didn't really respond. And I was like, yes, she does. Like, I just love how children can just walk up to a complete stranger and say, do you want to be my new best friend? Uh, and that's what we kind of have to do as adults, right? When you walk up into these rooms, you want to get deep. You want to ask questions. What are you currently struggling with, right? This isn't small talk. This is actually somebody who gets you. Like I always tell people, there's nothing you can say that you should be embarrassed about because everybody in a business room has gone through it. We've experienced it. We might still be there. So just be you, be honest, because what's going to happen is somebody's going to say, oh my goodness, me too. Or, you know what? That was me last year. Okay. And the more you can really start to find, like, put yourself out there, right? You're going to find people that are very, very similar. And that's how you start to build those relationships. Okay. So be the person to go first, invite. And don't be scared to ask somebody that you might feel is at a higher success level than you. Does that make sense? I am definitely guilty of this. I would always think, well, why would they want to hang out with me? Right. And I think we all think that, right? We're all in a place of we have this imposter syndrome, or we maybe just, I think we're our worst critics, right? So we might think we're at this level in business, and somebody looking at us is like, what are you talking about? You have so much value and you share this, and I love how you're this way, and all of the things, right? And I think the more you can, yes, Sarah, 1000%. I think the more you can just go and ask. So as I created my podcast now 9 years ago, I think already, I just at first was so scared. Like, why would they want to be on my show? And then I was like, I'm just going to go for it. And the bigger names I started to ask, the more I'm like, wow, some of these people, they're in a season where, yes, they are definitely way past my level. But I always remember too, like, sometimes they're in a season of, I want to give back, right? I want to give back. Like when Susie Orman said yes to our show, my mind was literally blown. Like, why would she do that? Right. And I do believe there are some people that you're going to get yeses from that you are going to be blown away that they say yes to you, but you won't know until you ask. So just get out there. Okay. So that's a big one. And here's the thing. The worst thing they do say is no. And then they say no. Like, okay. I will say too, as I climb into rooms, right, as I get into specific rooms, I am looking for people like me. So not all rooms are created equal, and not all people in the rooms are wired the same. So there are people that like to show up but they don't actually do the work. And I don't hang out with people that don't do the work. Okay. And why? Because it would be very hard for me to even have a conversation with somebody when I'm like, so what have you been working on? And then like a week later, it's like the same thing. And then a week later, it's the same thing. Like I move fast. That person wouldn't even want to hang out with me. They would think with all the things I'm accomplishing every week, they wouldn't want to hang out with me, right? We wouldn't be a good fit. So my point is I'm looking for people that have similar values as myself as well. Just like when I'm employing people and I want them to have similar company values, right? That we all share. I have those same values in my real life, right? So I'm looking for that of like, is this somebody that I can really align with? Okay. So that's what I want you to be thinking about is like, what's important to me? Okay. So with that said, I think the big thing too is when you're going to events and finding people. And if you might be thinking, do I really have to go to events? Can I just do like Zoom, virtual DMs, etc.? Yes, you can. It's just harder. Okay. So what's so funny is next week I'm going to be going to speak at an event. And my friend, we're going to go to dinner. And she said, hey, do you want to go to dinner with these two people? And I was like, yeah, sure. And what's funny is the person that invited me, I've seen her in person lots. And the person we're going to dinner with, I know, right? But it was so fun. And I've interviewed this person on my podcast. I'm not going to share names. But what's so funny was I was like, have I ever met that person in real life? I don't think I have. But I've built a relationship with them online, DMs, and we've texted and things like that. But I will tell you this, it will be different after we go to dinner in real life than it will be of 3 years in the DMs. It's just different, right? So if you're like, I want to make friends, but I don't really want to travel, I do believe it will be harder. Okay. It's just if you've gone to events and you're sitting next to the person next to you, or you're in line for the bathroom at the conversation sparks, it is very different than Zoom or anything like that. I do believe you can work at it and make it happen virtually, but I also think you should try. I've made a promise to myself, literally since I think I was 21 at the time, that I would always go to an in-person business conference at least once every 6 months. I have never broken that. I'm 40 years old. Never, ever have I gone more than 6 months. And I usually go every 3 months is really typically what I do for myself. Okay. So just something to consider, because people will say, Stacy, you're so connected. How? I'm like, well, I've been in masterminds for 20 years and I've literally I'm not just working with a private coach. I'm with a facilitator of a mastermind who brings in 20 people, 100 people, etc. Okay. So that's something to consider too. Now, something to think about is, how do I keep relationships going? So if you're waiting for people to message you or to do something for you, you got to flip that. Okay. How can you reach out to them? What could you help them with? So what I would honestly do is actually write down names of people that you would love to make friends with. Okay. So first, just writing them down, right? Getting them on actual paper, and then asking yourself, where do those types of people hang out? And pretty soon you will start to be in rooms like that, right? So that's what I want you to really think about is you may not be at a place where this 8-figure business owner is going to just sit down and have lunch with you, right? But you might get there as you start to climb into those rooms and start to up level as your business up levels, okay? So, now I do think that the 5 people you hang around, right? You're the average of the 5 people you hang around. Now, what's interesting is it's not just about wealth, right? It also has to do with like other types of habits. So think about when you go to dinner, right? With who you're going to dinner with. If you're hanging out with a little bit of a healthier group, you're probably picking a healthier restaurant. You're probably getting salad or getting something that makes it a little easier to eat healthy. Right? If you're going with your friends to the bar, right? You're making different choices. You're not eating as healthy, right? So there could be that. There could be your religion. There could be marriage, healthy relationships. So I used to be in a group, and I came home to my husband after the event, and I said, you know what I didn't love? I'm the only one that likes her husband. And I mean, like, as in like likes, right? Not even do they love them? Maybe, but they definitely don't like them. And I'm like, I don't really want to hang out where all these women just bash their husbands the whole time we're together. Okay. And I hung with that group one time and I never hung out with them again because that to me, again, that is like when I say the average of the five, I don't want to be like that. I was with a different group of girls back in maybe a few months ago, and they're like raving about their husbands and they're talking so amazing about them, right? That makes me feel a whole lot better. And it also makes my relationship with him stronger than bashing him all weekend, right? So I want you to think about not just business, but who do you want to be in your health? In your spirituality, in your, right, all these different areas of your life specifically. So that is really, really important too. Okay. I went on a tangent. I was going to say something else about what? It'll come back to me. It'll come. Oh, this is what I was going to say. So I'm trying to really be conscious of who am I spending time around. Now, that does not mean I'm like, oh, you're at this level in business and I'm here, so I'm not going to speak to you. No, 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 no. Okay. I will tell you this. I have lots of friends that are maybe in the 7-figure range, right? My business is doing 7 figures a month. Maybe their business is 7 figures per year. What I want you to understand is they will reach out to me and I totally support them and I will answer their questions. And I am like fighting for their business like it's mine. Okay. But I'm not proactively reaching out every single day for business advice, right? I'm not going to ask for business advice from somebody who isn't doing what I'm doing. I'm going to ask the person that's ahead of me those questions. Does that make sense, guys? So do you see how I still am having people at lower levels of business reach out to me, and I'm still giving my time to the people that light me up, the people that I absolutely love, right? I'm still saying yes to them, but they're not my average. They're not my top 5. They're not the people I reach out to. Does that make sense? So I don't want you to think like, okay, we're just putting down everybody at a level. And if you're not at this level or above for me, we can no longer talk anymore. No, 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 no. Okay. So that is something to consider. So with that, I always think when I'm in a certain room, sometimes I sit down and I'm meant to serve and I'm meant to give and be a mentor to the person sitting next to me. Sometimes when I sit down, I am humbled by the person sitting next to me and I am so grateful for what they're giving me. Every time I sit down, I don't know what room I'm in or what I'm going to get, okay? But to me, I just want to show up fully in either situation. Okay. Now, here's where I want to talk about trying to keep relationships going after these in-person events, right? So, first of all, how am I going to connect with this person after? Right? Am I going to connect through Instagram? Am I going to ask to do a Zoom call with them after? Right? Any way to kind of do 2 check-ins, even if it's just I am going to check it once every other week. I'm going to go comment on their Instagram post or DM them something, right? To stay top of mind. So that's where I think people get, I think they're just not great at this, or they only ping you or text you or DM you when they want something. So that is probably one of my best strategies is I do not ask for anything in the beginning of a relationship. The second you are immediately direct and asking for something, I think it's going to just be a massive turnoff, right? So I really, really am cautious of my friendships. And I really do not I try to give more than I take. Okay. Now, I will have people that see who some of my friends are and they'll message me and they'll say, hey, any chance you can intro me to that person? And my answer is no. Because I just told you I'm trying to give more than I take. And by me going and saying, hey, could you do a favor and meet my friend? Or hey, could you have this person on your I'm literally taking for somebody else, right? You've got to go do your own work. You've got to go meet these people and connect with these people. Don't be looking for a handout, okay? Now, if somebody said to me, I would love to intro you to X, right? I might be thinking to myself, wow, that's really generous. Where can I connect them? How can I reciprocate that that feeling, that favor, etc.? Okay. So just some little tips there as well. So show up consistently. Messaging somebody one time, not going to happen. Being the person constantly to be even just little comments, right? You're going to start to be memorable. And that is where those are the people I think that hear more yeses than nos. Okay. Let's talk about, I can't believe it's already 12:20. Let's talk about saying goodbye to some other friendships that are not serving you anymore. Okay. Let me just check the chat. Yeah, Belinda says, be the first person to go to first. Scary, but true. Yes. And you guys, it is. It's like you're like going into kindergarten and you're having to like make a new friend. That is what it feels like, right? But even worse, because we are very aware of getting turned down and all of that as adults. So very scary, but you just got to put yourself out there. Okay. And let me tell you, if you get the wrong, I did back in the day when I first got started, this is so awkward. When I first got started, I was looking at people that were doing certain things. I went to, I DM'd this person. I was like, hey, I would love to chat. Here's who I am. Here's what I've done. Da, 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 da. I think we have a lot in common. And this person just was totally turned off by me and kind of acted like she was better than me and she wanted nothing to do with me. Okay. So what's so funny is a year later, we qualified for the same mastermind. And now we're in this group of 20 and we are going to be friends. So I obviously remember her. I had no idea if she remembered me. All of a sudden, I get a message that's like, hey, could we jump on a call and chat? I was like, interesting. So I jump on a call and she wants to apologize for her behavior a year ago, right? And totally changed her tune. So if you're like, oh my goodness, I'm afraid, what if they treat me like that? Let them. And a year later, they're going to be apologizing when you show them who you are and what you're doing, and they'll be taking you seriously. So it does happen. It happened to me for sure. Okay, so let me answer, how do you find networking events to go to? So first of all, people like me are hosting events constantly. So look for people like me, right? So there's a lot, I shouldn't say this. A lot of people have gone more virtual than in person. So not everybody does in-person events, but there are quite a few of us, right? So I think the first thing you want to look at is, who do you like to learn from? And are they creating moments where there is a community, where there's in-person events specifically? Now, be careful with just local events, okay? I will tell you this. I have done some local events myself, and I've even tried to do some things in Chicago. So I live in Milwaukee. I'm only an hour from Chicago. And Chicago is much, much larger, right? Very big city, very big players. I've even done things there thinking, oh, this will be a really good up level, etc. And sometimes it's not. So I don't try to go locally. I really do find whoever online, and then wherever they happen to be traveling is where I'm specifically going to go, if that makes sense. Brooke, for us specifically, we just purchased or we're renting. We signed a 3-year lease with a venue in Chicago right by O'Hare. So, Brooke, we will be putting on monthly events starting in May in Chicago specifically. Now, if you're in the West Coast, FYI, we will be coming to Vegas in the freezing cold Chicago months. So we'll have like 2 kind of headquarters, Vegas and Chicago, but Brooke will have a ton of Chicago events, just an FYI. Okay, so hopefully that helps. Now, I want to talk about kind of like saying goodbye and letting go to certain relationships not serving you. Okay, so I already told you about the strategy of, I still let them reach out and I respond, right? But I might not be proactively being like, hey, how's your Wednesday going? Okay. I'm not prompting it. Okay. So now let's say, yeah, Belinda, we really wanted to have West Coast and East. I don't say Chicago's Midwest, but we wanted to have both sides for both of anybody all over the United States. So anyway, there are some people that I just let it fade, right? Where I might go, they're messaging me, and this is getting to be a kind of a toxic relationship, or it's a draining relationship. One relationship that was just kind of going downhill was, this person would message and I loved them, and I would respond and I would give them like $1 million coaching, and they would do nothing with it. And then they'd come back to me a week later and complain, they didn't do it. Here's the problem. What should I do? And I was like, the advice I gave you a week ago, and then a week later, again, no movement, nothing. I'm stuck. I'm here. What do I do? I can't be that person every week for you, right? When you're not going to take my advice or take anybody's advice and just do something. So I really started to, instead of responding, right? I started to slow down responses on purpose. So instead of somebody texts me and I just text them back, I might wait a day or 2, right? And the slower you are, what happens is people like that they are feeding off of that other person to be like, it's okay. And when I wasn't giving that to this person, what happened? She stopped messaging me because she's like, oh, she's not fast. She's not helping me. She's not feeling sorry for me. She's not giving me like the what she needed, right? So she went and she got it someplace else. So I don't just go up to somebody and say, hi, we can't be friends anymore. My actions are just slowing down. Okay. Now there are some people, I can think of a relationship from a couple years ago where I just completely lost trust in somebody. They did something that I was just not in alignment with. And I told them that. I had a very honest conversation of like, this is not okay. And unfortunately, like this is a pretty big deal breaker. And I stopped all communication with them. It's like to the point where like if they messaged me today, I wouldn't respond. And that is just in a place where, again, when you find out certain toxic relationships are just not helping you, they're not serving you. If you're walking away and almost feeling like gross about the conversation or guilty or fill in the blank, like it's okay to let people go, to bless and release, right? So there's a lot of ways to do this. Another thing is like, I know we're talking about friends, but this is still kind of in that ballpark, is when you go holidays, right? We just had Easter weekend. Maybe some of you were with your family and they're like, how's business going? And it somehow always turns not great, right? Or there's always something that comes out of it and it just leaves you feeling like defeated and all of that. I have really learned who I share things with and who I do not. And sometimes when certain family members ask how business is, it's just, yeah, it's great. Redirect. How are things going with you? And I'm trying to get out of that conversation. So sometimes, people are going to kind of pick battles with you on purpose. And I just don't engage in it. I definitely used to. And I would leave every holiday feeling not great. Right. And it just really has to come down to like, who I always think like, what am I trying to get out of these specific relationships or what am I getting out of these relationships? And meeting up with family on a weekend, right, is not where I'm getting business advice, right? That's not what I'm trying to get out of it. So how can I fill my cup, right, in a different way with different needs from family, friends, etc. Okay. So be careful because some of you might be like, my mom isn't supportive or my sister doesn't get it. And you're like trying to shove it down their throat so they'll feel proud of you and they're excited for you. And it's just like, this is like pick your battles. And this is probably not one you want to pick, right? Or you need to pick. So just be thinking about that as well. You really want to ask like, what relationships serve me? What do not? Okay. All right. Let me see what else I have here. So questions to ask. Does this relationship bring me joy? Do I feel lighter after we talk or do I feel heavier? Right? Is this mutual? Right? Is this a mutual relationship? Are we both getting something out of it? Right? And invest in relationships where it is a win-win, right? You don't want to just be somebody's mentor, right? And you don't want to just be taking from somebody else as well. So we covered where to meet the right people. I really truly think it's actually getting in the rooms at those events where it's, again, people working on similar things. I think that's going to be huge. Now, I will say I've been in dozens and dozens of masterminds, and it can be hit or miss, right? One of my least favorite types of rooms to be in is when the masterminds are selling to each other. One of my like worst mastermind experiences where it was like, wow, everybody's in, like I was in masterminds where if somebody needed help and you were the expert in that space, you helped them and you just helped them for free. And you just did that. You were masterminding, you were connecting. And then I joined this one mastermind where I thought this person wanted to help me. And it turned into I'm like, wait, are you selling? Is this a sales pitch? Are you trying to get my credit card right now? Like, what is happening? And that to me was just, that's not how I operate when I'm meeting true friends. Like, I want to help my friend. I'm not trying to charge my friend. Right. So that is another thing is like, what kind of room is this? Is this a transactional room or is this truly we mastermind, we're friends, we're helping, etc. Now, I'm not saying don't charge your friends if they're your friends. There is a difference between me helping and me giving somebody a minute of my time or giving them a quick strategy. If somebody needs my entire program and they need a private one-on-one coach, then yes, that might be something where I say, hey, listen, this is something you really should consider. Okay. Definitely create boundaries for sure in that specific situation. So where do you meet the right people? at these events, how do you deepen that relationship without feeling awkward? I don't know. I mean, I don't know that you're going to not feel awkward. It may be awkward in the beginning, right? But just put yourself out there and know that a lot of business owners are just like you, and they also are looking for real relationships and friendships. So you would be surprised what people say yes to, okay? And then the next one is creating a friendship filter, okay? So this is where you have to ask, like, do I feel safe? Can I share things and it's going to stay in this room? Or if I speak, are 10 other people going to know exactly what I just told this person, right? Would I want to build something or collaborate with this person? Do I trust them? Does this person energize me or drain me, right? You cannot afford to be drained. And if that is what you're starting to feel, I would start to ask, how do I back out of this relationship? Okay. So if you have any other questions, post in the chat. But this is something that I really, really do believe is crucial for business success. So when I'm sharing certain numbers, right? Let me tell you this. If I'm at the top of a room, I may not fully say what I want to say because I might go, well, I don't want them to feel bad or I don't want them to think I'm bragging. So I may lower who I genuinely am, right? If I'm at the bottom of a room, I might be too scared to say anything because I'm completely devaluing who I am. So for me, when I get into a room, I actually love to try to be in the middle. And what's amazing is I get to be both people in the middle, right? I get to serve anybody at the bottom who needs support and I get to give. And then I get to look at who is aspirational and what are they doing and how can I learn from them. So that's a really, really cool sweet spot. Now, I'll tell you this. When I get in a room and I get in the middle, eventually I climb to the top, right? And that is when I get to the top, that is when I make sure I've gotten everything I can out of the curriculum, the content, the training, that I've truly well oiled and refined it, right? But at some point, I may go, okay, it's time for me to find a new room. Now, the cool thing is when certain people or programs they are up leveling, sometimes you grow with them. So I've been in masterminds sometimes for as long as 8 or 9 years. I've been in one for 8 and one for 9 because they kept up leveling their people and up leveling their curriculum. And even though I was climbing, they were always a few steps ahead of me to keep learning. So that's really, really important too. Make sense? All right, guys, I think that's it for today. Really, really important conversation, something you definitely want to make sure. Think about right now. Oh, this is my last tip, and then we're going to wrap. A coach had me write down my 5 people, and I told them who they were. And he said, how come you don't have this girl listed? You always talk about her. And I said, well, that's my employee. And he's like, okay, well, do you spend more time with her than any of those 5 people? And I was like, well, yeah, we hang out like all day long, right? And he was like, okay, well, I want you to think about that because she has some not great thoughts and she has some things that are holding them back. And I'm not really sure that this is the best person, right, for you to be hanging around all day long. And that was like the biggest epiphany because when I heard that phrase, the 5 people, I thought it meant like, who do I talk to on the phone? Who do I text message? No, it's who are you physically around all day long, right? That is so incredibly important. Okay. All right, guys, you are so welcome. Have a phenomenal week. I hope I get to see some of you live in Nashville next week. We are putting on a 2-day in-person event called AI Amplify, and it's all about using AI to double your team's output. So we've got an event coming up next week in Nashville. Our entire leadership team is going to be there, and we're all actually presenting on how we're using AI in every single department in our company. So we're super excited to do that. So maybe I'll see some of you there as well. All right, guys, if you need anything else, let us know. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe if you are not already. We're so excited. We're on our way to 6,000 subscribers. Yes, Sarah, I'll see you in Chicago in, I think, 2 weeks. We're so excited to have you there as well. You guys, we've got so many events coming up all summer long. So if you want to get involved in one of our in-person events, you can DM me at Stacy Tuschl on Instagram. My team can get you all the details on all the things we've got going on. All right, guys, have a great week. I'll see you soon. Bye, everyone.